Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Black Gold featuring Texas Tea Show. Of course, I'm your host, Texas Tea. Very excited that some of you still call me Sweet Tea. And what a show we have for you today. I've had the privilege of interviewing some amazing authors, and today's guest is no exception to that rule. As we approach Father's Day, happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there, I thought it best to welcome and introduce to you a new book for your reading. I just want to read a couple of lines from the book that I thought might be intriguing enough to let you know why you want to know this author and get to know this book. Until death do us part, I wonder which of us died. These are the kind of thoughts that go through Kyle Banks' mind since he found his wife in bed with someone else. Suddenly, this perfect life changed, thrusting himself into a situation he wasn't prepared to handle alone. He was now a single father and needed to care for his son and for himself. Carrington Lane came from a society of rich family with deep traditions and lots of money. When Carrington broke that tradition, he gave up any family support, ultimately becoming an outcast. He found love in his college sweetheart, Asia, and their daughter, Casey. He found himself caring for his child alone also, experiencing the traumas of being a single parent and attempting to carry on life, wondering if he'd ever see Asia again. It's these details that are part of a fabulous new book that I'd like to introduce to you. The name of the author is Andre Ford, and I'd like to welcome him now. Mr. Ford, will you join us? Hey, Mr. Ford,
Hello.
how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, trying to do my best to give all of our listeners, all of our viewers, a fabulous introduction to this fabulous book called,
Imperfect situations.
and that's what they sound like they are.
Hmm. Yeah.
As we look at this particular book, and thank you so much for joining me today, the first thing that I recognize in just a little bit of the introduction is that we're dealing with two gentlemen who have found themselves from very different backgrounds into a very similar situation of single parenthood. So I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to write the book about these two single fathers?
Well, I was a new dad of a son that was at the time 6 months old and a little down in reference to the way fathers were being treated in the courts, and just the image that was being given in society in general. I was excited to be a new father, and I felt like I needed to uplift or help change the narrative in reference to how fathers were looked at.
So I'm guessing as a father, you found yourself a new father who was single.
No, at the time I was married,
Okay.
and unfortunately, that status changed, and eventually I became a father raising two children as a single parent. And the story that I told in this book ended up in some ways becoming my story.
Okay. Okay.
And some of the things that I wrote previously, I ended up being able to relate to and going through, um, in terms of experience and just all that is involved in raising children. So it was kind of a full circle experience.
I can appreciate that. And I think what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, what I
Mhm.
hear you saying is that um, your experience as a father who was single sounded or became very different than the stories that you heard of mothers who were single. Is that
That
right?
that is correct.
And I
Yes.
think we talked about you had had some others in passing or close familiar friends or family or whomever who also echoed that sentiment that the story of a single father had not been nearly as discussed as that of a single mother. And though it was projected one way, it was more the same of what the single mother encountered as a father. Is that so?
That is correct.
Tell us
And
about that a little bit.
well, I felt like through um, the experiences that I had as a father, um, the things that I was seeing other fathers deal with and go through. And then also, as you look at TV, as hear things on the radio, hear people talk, um, it's a different conversation when it comes to mothers who are raising children on their own. And if there is any conversation about fathers who are raising children on their own, it's very limited. There's no, I hate to use the word praise or uplift, but there's really no,
Positive projection of what that
right,
father's experience is
that,
like.
that father's experience is like,
Well, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that because what I hear you saying is that often we hear about baby daddies as if they are automatically seen as deadbeats. We hear about men who we hear, in other words, what I think you were saying is that the stories that we do hear are more often those fathers who are not holding up to that responsibility and less hearing about those fathers who are doing it all and doing it well
that is correct.
with the interest of the child at heart.
With the interest of the child at heart. And just to point out that, of course, the population of fathers that are taking care of their children, no matter whether it is in a situation of being single or whether or not they're in the home, actually in the home, helping to raise a child. The topic of fathers in that conversation typically doesn't get uplifted or shared.
So they're not given any appreciation for being that father that everyone hopes they will have and see.
Right, right.
Yeah, I can appreciate that very much. I know I am the child of single parents, and one of the things that I'm most grateful to my mother for is her insistence that no matter what I was told, no matter what I heard, no matter what my father did, he was my father and should always be respected as my father. And I think that a lot of times there are mothers, even though there are mothers who would have that same advice and directive to their children, there are also those mothers that put fathers who are single in a very negative light. And if I hear you correctly, it sounds like you want those fathers who do the right things to have a story to relate to be heard more often, or at least have a voice. And your book gives voice to those fathers. Is that right?
That is correct.
So
That
tell
is
us a little bit about, tell us a little bit, I should say, tell us a little bit, maybe a little bit more about these gentlemen who find themselves in this situation. What can you tell us about each of these characters that would be inspiring or give us enough of a taste or a teaser that would say, read about these gentlemen to hear about their stories?
well, I think any guy can relate, any father can relate to these two gentlemen. Kyle was a teacher. He had, a job that we all can relate to, and he lived a normal life, so to speak. He made sure he took care of his family. He did the right thing, did the things that he was supposed to do to take care of his family, and unfortunately, he was betrayed by his wife. Carrington, on the other hand, I wanted to kind of give a different perspective. Um, Whereas he came from money. And because of the nature of his relationship and who he had the relationship with, the relationship with his family suffered because of prejudice,
So that
suffered.
so is it that old school she wasn't good enough? She wasn't whatever enough to be a part of this breed? Is that part of what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, that is part of it, but
Okay.
also because she was of another nationality.
Okay.
And that's kind of where, if you see the cover of the book, I put down there that you have prejudice involved. um, and in this situation with Carrington, you know uh, he could not keep his relationship together. He could not raise his child without that prejudice influencing the relationship. So.
So Mr. Carrington sacrificed the relationship with his family for the love of his wife and his child, and then
Mhm.
found himself with simply his
Simply
child.
put.
Wow.
Mhm, mhm.
That's some tea, Mr. Andrew. Andrew. Now I called you Andrew. Andre. Honey, that is tea. That is tea. And I will bet that a lot of the folks who are watching can relate to that, whether personally or through other relationships that they know of people that they know, because of a lot of what's happening in our world today. There are those instances where people will sacrifice a lot for
Mhm,
the love of their lives to only see it turn into something that wasn't what they expected.
mhm.
That's some tea.
Okay.
Because I hear you talking about this hardworking gentleman that's
Yeah.
doing his best to make it happen for his family. And what I'm trying to think of that sign, that old school song that talked about me working hard for the money, but I'm not home.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? That old song that talked about if I'm out there making the money and I'm not at home, you're gonna complain about that. And if
You
I'm
think you're
home and I'm
lonely
not making,
now?
say it
Wait.
again.
If you think you're lonely now, wait
What you
until
say?
tonight.
That's it. If you think you're lonely now, wait until the night comes. Yes, sir. That's it.
Bobby
So it
Womack.
sounds like he may have been a little bit in that situation. It sounds like both of these characters are definitely someone, even though they are fictional. And so thank you for your brilliant mind on that point. I certainly see the people being able, I see the relatability in those stories.
Yeah.
And again, coming up on Father's Day, where most fathers think they are so, they get the short end of the stick on Father's Day. Anyway, I always hear men say they go all out of the way to make sure that these women have everything for Mother's Day. And I even heard some women talking about they thought that their husband should buy them a Mother's Day gift, and other women saying, you are not his mother. Why is he buying you a gift? You are not his. So I've heard all of these different perspectives. But the one that seems to always ring similarly is that fathers don't get nearly the same level of due love as do our mothers. And so, first of all, let me make sure all of you fathers know that I appreciate you. And I think that this book is an opportunity, as you share with us, Andre, for the voice of those fathers who have different backgrounds but still have the same responsibilities, the same challenges, the same focus, the same desires as a parent for the child to be successful and still find themselves in a single situation. So
Right.
that's a lot to think about.
Mhm.
Um, I'm guessing that you're looking forward to having a great Father's Day from your babies, from your children.
I am. I am.
Awesome. Awesome.
They're 29 and 26, so we'll see what they come up with.
I bet they'll come up with something wonderful, and I hope all fathers have that same type of an experience. You know, a lot of the things that we say here, Andre, on the Black Gold featuring Texas Tea Show is that we are more alike than we are different. And if we
Definitely.
have the audacity to sit down and have a conversation about it, we will find that we are more alike than we are different. So when
Mhm.
we think about the characters in the book, the challenges, as I mentioned, that they faced, I don't know yet. That's the teaser about how successful they are and what their final outcomes are.
Mhm.
But what's the thing that you'd want the children of these fathers to take away, and the mothers of the children of these fathers could possibly get out of reading this book? Reflection, perspective, consideration. What are your thoughts?
Well, as far as children are concerned, which this is not a children's book, so they, but in
Adult
adult
children.
children. So the message for them is, you know, to whatever the situation was where the parents became separated and whoever was responsible for taking care of them, the message is that parent did all they can to take care of you, give you the best that they could give you of themselves and of the world. Um, and whether that was your mother or whether that was your father, the interest, the time, the dedication, the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into raising you, that was from the heart. That was because they loved you and had your best interest at heart.
For sure, for sure. And what I heard you even in saying that, I think it's going to also be important for those parents who have separated to remember that there is a child in the middle and
Mhm.
to be sure that you respect that this child had nothing to do with
Right,
whatever life brought that caused the separation,
right.
and that each of you are responsible. Each of you created this beautiful being, and
Mhm.
that beautiful being needs to feel comfortable and secure with the foundation of two parents, whether they live in the same home or not. I
Right.
think that that's critically important. That's why I brought up what my mother said to me, because again, and I'll probably do a show on the child, perspective of the child of the single parent,
Mhm.
be remembered, and that those parents are respectful of each other enough not to use that child as a pawn in their
Mhm.
own situation. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
have you heard of anything like that happening, Mr. Andre?
Oh my God, I have unfortunately seen, heard, and experienced, um, you know, uh, even within the court system, um, the child being used, unfortunately, as a pawn. So it's unfortunate that any child has to go through that. Of course, they go through it unknowingly, but typically the results don't work out in the child's favor when that kind of activity takes place. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It sounds like this is a pretty interesting book. I know I can't wait to get into it in more details, and I certainly hope that you, as my viewing audience, would do the same. And so, where can we get our hands on this book, Andre?
well, Imperfect Situations is available on Amazon.com. And it's also available through your local retailer. Just give that retailer the name of the book, Imperfect Situations, and or my name as the author, Andre Ford, and they will be able to purchase that. You'll be able to purchase that book through that retailer, and you'll have the choice to either have them deliver it to you or for you to come back into the store and pick it up.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, right now it's not available on shelves, but it is available through your retailer.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. So is there going to be a next edition of this book that we can look forward to, or other books that you have on the horizon? Are you still what do you got for us in the future?
Well, it's funny you should say that because I have had individuals who have read the book ask me if there is going to be a sequel. Um, I did kind of in the book to where I left that door open, um, but hadn't really thought about going back and opening that door. But I have started on a new project over the last couple of years. It's going to be again another fiction novel, but this one's going to be a crime story.
Okay, okay. Well, we can't wait to hear more about that, and certainly hope that we can bring you back to the Black Gold Texas Tea Show to be able to share those details with our viewers. But again, we want all of you to take advantage of looking at imperfect situations, reading those details, getting to know those characters, and remembering Andre Ford. Andre, we thank you so much for your time.
I thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Wow, what an opportunity to engage in reading about two men that we often don't talk about. I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to visit with Andre Ford and to discuss his new book, Imperfect Situations, and to think about, as we approach Father's Day, the importance of our fathers, whether they have your mother in the house or not. Our fathers are to be respected. Our fathers are to be appreciated for what they do as providers and protectors and overseers of our homes. And I think this book will give us a new perspective in considering the life of so many single fathers who are doing all the right things to ensure that their children have an opportunity to be successful in life. Fathers, let me say from myself again, Happy Father's Day. Thank you for being the fathers that you are on behalf of your children. And I hope that you have a phenomenal Father's Day. We remember here on the Black Gold featuring Texas Tea Show that today is the first day of the rest of your life. I pray that the rest of your life is the best of your life. And so you do all you can to continue to be the father that you are. Know that you are loved and appreciated, and we will continue to celebrate you. Thanks to all of you for being here. I can't appreciate you enough. Please feel free to leave your comments in the section below and let us hear from you, what you'd like to hear. If you get the book, let me know what your thoughts are about imperfect situations. I'd love to provide that feedback to Andre and making sure that he knows what you thought about those imperfect situations and the various characters that are in that book. Thanks so much. Until next time. God bless.